Tonight, as you settle into the quiet sanctuary of rest, allow yourself to arrive fully in this moment. The day, with all its noise and motion, is behind you now. The tasks, the conversations, the endless stream of thoughts that carried you from morning to evening, they can all be set down, like heavy bags, at the threshold of sleep. You have carried enough today. You have done enough today. And now, in this sacred transition between waking and dreaming, you are invited to simply be. Feel your body sinking into the surface beneath you, whether it's soft or firm, warm or cool. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you are held, supported, cradled by something greater than your own effort. For once, you don't have to hold yourself up. You don't have to maintain your posture, or your appearance, or your readiness to act. You can let go of the subtle tensions you didn't even know you were carrying in your shoulders, your jaw, your belly, your hands. With each breath, allow yourself to become a little heavier, a little softer, a little more surrendered to the gentle pull of rest. There is an ancient teaching in Buddhism that says, we suffer not from what happens to us, but from our resistance to what happens. We create walls against experience, against feeling, against the natural flow of life moving through us. But here, in this liminal space, between day and night, between consciousness and sleep, you are invited to let those walls dissolve. Not through force, not through effort, but through the simple act of allowing your breath to find its own rhythm without trying to control it. Allowing your thoughts to drift like clouds across the vast sky of your awareness without chasing them or pushing them away. Allowing yourself to be exactly as you are in this moment without needing to be different, better, or more. The path to peace is not found in adding more to your life, more achievements, more possessions, more proof of your worth. Peace is found in subtraction, in releasing, in the gentle art of letting go. And sleep, true, restful sleep, is perhaps the most profound practice of letting go we have. Every night, we are asked to release our grip on the day, to trust that the world will continue without our constant vigilance, to surrender our sense of control and allow ourselves to dissolve into something larger. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. This is the recognition that you are not separate from the great rhythm of existence, but part of it, held within it, breathing with it. As you lie here, notice how your body knows exactly what to do. You don't have to instruct your heart to beat or your lungs to breathe. These miracles happen without your management, without your intervention. There is an intelligence in you, deeper than thought, older than memory, wiser than any book or teaching. This intelligence has carried you through every night of your life, through every cycle of sleeping and waking, through every transition from exhaustion to renewal. Trust it now. Trust that same force that turns the seasons and moves the tides to carry you into rest. In Buddhist philosophy, there is a concept called the middle way, a path between extremes, between indulgence and denial, between grasping and aversion. Tonight, you are walking this middle way into sleep, not forcing yourself to sleep through sheer will, but also not resisting the natural pull toward rest, simply being present with whatever is arising, allowing the process to unfold in its own time, in its own way. There is no rush, there is no deadline. There is only this moment, this breath, this gentle descent into the healing darkness of sleep. Think of all the nights that have come before this one, thousands upon thousands of them, each one carrying you from the exhaustion of one day into the possibility of the next. You have survived every single one of them, every worry that kept you awake, every fear that seemed insurmountable in the darkness, every problem that felt unsolvable at 3 a.m. You have moved through them all. And here you are, still breathing, still capable of rest, still held by the same mysterious grace that has always carried you. This is not your first night, and it won't be your last. You know how to do this, even when your mind tells you otherwise. The mind, that beautiful and terrible instrument, loves to create stories. It loves to replay the past and rehearse the future. It loves to analyze and plan and worry and wonder. But the mind is like a child that doesn't know when to stop playing, doesn't recognize its own exhaustion until it collapses. You can be the loving parent to your own mind tonight, gently but firmly saying, "It's time to rest now. We can return to these thoughts tomorrow, if we need to, but now it's time to rest." And like a child who protests but secretly longs for the comfort of sleep, your mind will eventually surrender, will eventually trust your guidance, will eventually allow itself to be carried into dreams. There's a story from the Zen tradition about a student who came to a master complaining of insomnia. "I cannot sleep," the student said. "My mind is too busy, my thoughts too loud." The master smiled and said, "Who is this I that cannot sleep? Find that one, and you will find rest." The student was confused at first, but as he began to search for this I that was having trouble sleeping, he discovered something profound. The I he thought he was, the one full of worries and plans and opinions, was just a collection of thoughts. Beneath those thoughts was awareness itself, vast and peaceful, already at rest. He realized he didn't need to make himself sleep. He needed to discover the part of him that was already sleeping, already at peace, already home. This same discovery is available to you tonight. Beneath the surface waves of thought and emotion, beneath the story of who you think you are and what you think you need to do, there is a vast ocean of stillness. This stillness is not something you create, it's something you uncover. It's been there all along, waiting patiently beneath the noise, like the silence that exists between words, like the space that exists between breaths. You don't have to earn this stillness. You don't have to deserve it. You simply have to stop moving long enough to notice it's already here. Feel your breathing now, not to control it, but just to notice it. Notice how the breath comes and goes without your effort. Notice how there's a natural pause at the end of each exhale, a moment of perfect stillness before the next inhale begins. This is the rhythm of life itself, expansion and contraction, fullness and emptiness, activity and rest. You are part of this rhythm. You don't have to create it or maintain it. You simply have to allow yourself to be moved by it, like a leaf floating on a gentle stream. In the Buddhist understanding, suffering comes not from pain itself, but from our relationship to pain. It comes from our resistance, our fighting, our insistence that things should be different than they are. But what if tonight, just for tonight, you could accept everything exactly as it is? What if you could say yes to your tiredness instead of fighting it? What if you could welcome your need for rest instead of seeing it as weakness? What if you could embrace the vulnerability of sleep instead of armoring against it? This acceptance is not resignation, it's recognition. Recognition that you are a human being with human needs, human limitations, human rhythms, and that's not just okay, it's beautiful. The body you inhabit has been working tirelessly all day. Your heart has beaten thousands upon thousands of times. Your lungs have drawn countless breaths. Your cells have been constantly renewing, repairing, maintaining the miracle of your existence. All of this has been happening without your conscious awareness, without your permission, without your control. What a gift this is, to be carried by forces greater than your own will, to be sustained by an intelligence deeper than thought. Tonight, you can trust these same forces to carry you into sleep, to repair what needs repairing, to restore what needs restoring, to prepare you for whatever tomorrow may bring. There's a beautiful teaching about the lotus flower, how it grows in muddy water, but blooms pristine and untouched by the mud. This is often used as a metaphor for enlightenment, for the ability to live in the world without being stained by it. But there's another layer to this teaching. The lotus doesn't bloom despite the mud. It blooms because of the mud. The mud provides the nutrients, the foundation, the necessary conditions for the lotus to grow. In the same way, your challenges, your struggles, your exhaustion, they're not obstacles to your peace. They're the very ground from which your peace can grow. The tiredness you feel is not your enemy. It's your teacher, showing you the importance of rest, the necessity of surrender, the wisdom of cycles. As you continue to sink deeper into relaxation, notice how your body becomes heavier with each breath. This heaviness is not a burden, it's a blessing. It's your body's way of anchoring you to the present moment, of drawing you down from the spinning world of thoughts into the solid ground of physical existence. Feel the weight of your head on the pillow. Feel the weight of your arms and legs sinking into the mattress. Feel the weight of your whole being surrendering to gravity, to the earth's gentle pull. You don't have to hold yourself up anymore. You can let yourself be held. In Zen practice, there's a saying, sitting quietly, doing nothing, spring comes, and the grass grows by itself. This captures the essence of what's happening as you drift towards sleep. You're not making sleep happen. You're creating the conditions for sleep to arise, naturally. You're getting out of your own way. You're removing the obstacles, releasing the resistance, softening the boundaries between waking and sleeping. And in this softening, sleep comes not as something you achieve, but as something you receive. Think of how a river flows toward the ocean. It doesn't struggle or strain. It simply follows the path of least resistance, winding through valleys, around mountains, always moving toward its destination. The river knows where it's going, even when the path seems indirect, even when it has to move slowly through flat plains or rush quickly down steep slopes. It trusts the journey. It trusts the process. It trusts that every twist and turn is bringing it closer to home. You are like this river tonight, flowing toward the ocean of sleep, trusting the natural currents to carry you there. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering. We suffer when we cling too tightly to things, people, ideas, even to our own identities. But in sleep, we practice the ultimate non-attachment. We let go of our names, our roles, our stories about who we are. We dissolve into something nameless, formless, boundless. This dissolution might seem frightening to the ego, which wants to maintain control, maintain identity, maintain the illusion of separateness. But to the deeper part of you, the part that remembers what it's like to be one with everything, this dissolution is coming home. Every night, you have the opportunity to die to your old self and be reborn in the morning. This isn't dramatic or frightening. It's the most natural thing in the world. Just as the day dies into night and night births a new day, you die to consciousness and are reborn through dreams and deep sleep into a new version of yourself. The you that wakes up tomorrow will not be exactly the same as the you that falls asleep tonight. Cells will have regenerated. Memories will have been consolidated. Healing will have occurred on levels you cannot even imagine. Trust this process. Trust this nightly death and rebirth. Trust that letting go is not losing, but transforming. In the space between waking and sleeping, between thinking and dreaming, there is a doorway. This doorway has been called many things by different traditions. Some call it the hypnagogic state. Some call it the threshold, some call it the bardo, but whatever name we give it, it's a sacred space where the ordinary rules of consciousness don't quite apply. Here, in this in-between place, you are neither fully awake nor fully asleep. You are something else, something more fluid, more open, more connected to the great mystery of existence. Don't rush through this doorway. Linger here for a moment. Feel the strangeness and the beauty of being neither here nor there, neither this nor that. The mystics have always known that the greatest truths are found not in certainty, but in mystery, not in knowing, but in unknowing. As you approach sleep, you approach this same mystery. You approach the place where your individual consciousness merges with something larger, where the boundaries of self become permeable, where you remember that you are not separate from the cosmos, but woven into it, like a thread in an infinite tapestry. This remembering doesn't happen through thought. It happens through surrender, through trust, through the willingness to let go of who you think you are and discover who you really are. Notice your breath again, how it has naturally become slower and deeper. This is your body's wisdom at work, preparing you for the journey into sleep. With each exhale, you release a little more tension, a little more thought, a little more of the day's residue. With each inhale, you draw in peace, stillness, the quiet darkness that heals and restores. You don't have to direct this process. You only have to allow it. Your body knows the way. Your breath knows the way. Your consciousness knows the way. All you have to do is stop interfering, stop managing, stop trying to control what is already perfect in its natural unfolding. There's a profound teaching in Buddhism about the nature of emptiness. This doesn't mean nothingness or void in a negative sense. It means spaciousness, openness, infinite potential. It means that nothing is fixed, nothing is permanent. Everything is in constant flux and flow. As you drift towards sleep, you enter this emptiness. You become spacious. You become open. You become potential itself, ready to be filled with dreams, with restoration, with the mysterious processes that happen when the conscious mind steps aside. This emptiness is not something to fear. It's something to embrace. It's the source of all creativity, all healing, all transformation. In our waking lives, we spend so much energy maintaining our boundaries, our defenses, our sense of who we are and who we are not. But in sleep, these boundaries soften. The walls we build between ourselves and others, between ourselves and the world, between ourselves and the infinite, they become transparent, permeable. This is why sleep is so healing. It's not just physical rest. It's a return to wholeness, a remembering of our fundamental interconnection with all things. When you sleep, you don't just restore your individual body and mind. You restore your connection to the whole, to the web of existence that holds and sustains all life. Feel how your body has become so relaxed now that you can barely distinguish where you end and the bed begins. This blurring of boundaries is not confusion, it's clarity. It's the recognition that the separation between self and other, between inside and outside, between me and not me, is an illusion created by the waking mind. In reality, you are not separate from your environment. You are in constant exchange with it, breathing it in, breathing it out, taking in its energy, releasing your own. Sleep makes this exchange more obvious, more fluid, more harmonious. The ancient texts speak of sleep as a return to the source, a nightly journey back to the place from which we emerged and to which we will ultimately return. This source has many names: consciousness, awareness, the void, the absolute, God, Buddha, nature. But all these names point to the same truth, that beneath the surface appearance of separation and multiplicity, there is unity. Beneath the waves, there is the ocean. Beneath the clouds, there is the sky. And beneath your thoughts, your personality, your individual identity, there is pure awareness, vast and peaceful, already perfect, already whole. As you continue this gentle descent into sleep, you might notice thoughts still arising, like bubbles rising to the surface of a still pond. This is natural. The mind doesn't switch off like a light. It gradually settles, like sediment in water, like leaves falling from a tree. Don't fight these thoughts. Don't engage with them either. Just notice them with the same detached interest you might notice clouds passing across the sky. They are not you. They are just weather patterns in consciousness, temporary formations that arise and pass away. There's a beautiful paradox in the spiritual path. The more you try to grasp enlightenment, the further it recedes. The more you seek peace, the more elusive it becomes. But when you stop seeking, when you stop grasping, when you simply rest in what is, that's when truth reveals itself. Sleep teaches us this lesson every night. You cannot force sleep. You cannot will yourself into unconsciousness. The harder you try, the more awake you become. But when you stop trying, when you simply create the conditions for sleep and then get out of the way, sleep comes naturally, effortlessly, like grace. This is the secret that the mystics have always known, that the deepest truths, the greatest treasures, the most profound experiences, they cannot be seized or earned or achieved. They can only be received. They come when we are open, receptive, surrendered. They come when we stop doing and start being. They come when we remember that we are not the authors of our own existence, but characters in a story much larger than ourselves. A story that has been unfolding since before we were born and will continue long after we are gone. Feel yourself now as part of this larger story. Feel yourself held within the great web of existence, connected to every other sleeping being on this planet. Right now, millions of others are also surrendering to sleep, also letting go of the day, also trusting the darkness to carry them toward morning. You are not alone in this journey. You are part of a vast rhythm, a planetary breathing, an ancient dance between waking and sleeping that has been going on since consciousness first emerged. Your individual sleep is part of this collective sleep. Your rest contributes to the world's rest. Your peace adds to the sum total of peace in the universe. In the Buddhist cosmology, there are different realms of existence, different levels of consciousness. In sleep, we travel through these realms. We move from the dense physical realm of waking consciousness, through the subtle realm of dreams, to the causal realm of deep sleep, where even dreams cease and we rest in pure being. This journey happens every night, whether we are aware of it or not. It's a sacred journey, a pilgrimage to the source, a return to the primordial silence from which all sound emerges. As your body continues to relax, as your breath continues to deepen, you are preparing for this journey. You don't need a map. You don't need instructions. You have made this journey thousands of times before. Your consciousness knows the way, like a bird knows how to migrate, like a salmon knows how to return to its spawning grounds. This knowledge is not intellectual. It's cellular, instinctual, deeper than memory. Trust this ancient knowledge. Trust your body's wisdom. Trust the part of you that has never forgotten how to sleep. The Zen masters speak of original mind or beginner's mind, a state of consciousness that is fresh, open, unconditioned by past experience. Every night, sleep offers us a return to this original mind. In deep sleep, we become again like newborns, without history, without future, without the burden of identity. We rest in pure potential, in the space before thought, before language, before the story of who we think we are. This is profoundly healing. It's a reset, a clearing, a chance to begin again. And it's available to you every single night. This fountain of youth, this source of renewal. Notice how quiet everything has become. The world outside continues its business, but here in your cocoon of rest, there is a different quality of time, a different rhythm. This is sacred time, healing time, time outside of time. Here, you are not rushing toward anything or running from anything. You are simply present, simply breathing, simply being. This is enough. This has always been enough. The feeling that you need to do more, be more, achieve more, that's the voice of the ego, not the voice of truth. The truth is that you are already complete. You are already whole. You are already exactly where you need to be. In many spiritual traditions, darkness is seen as the womb of creation, the place where new life gestates and grows. The darkness of sleep is this same creative darkness. In it, dreams are born. In it, problems are solved. In it, healing happens on levels we cannot consciously access. Don't fear this darkness. Welcome it as you would welcome a warm embrace. Let it wrap around you like a soft blanket. Let it hold you in its quiet mystery. This darkness is not empty. It's full of potential, full of intelligence, full of the organizing principle that turns chaos into order, wounds into wisdom, exhaustion into energy. As you sink deeper still, you might feel yourself at the edge of sleep, that strange borderland where you're not quite here and not quite there. This is a sacred threshold. Ancient cultures recognized these threshold moments as times of power, times when the veil between worlds is thin, times when transformation is possible. You stand at such a threshold now. Behind you is the day with all its accomplishments and failures, its joys and sorrows. Ahead of you is the mystery of sleep, the unknown territory of dreams and deep rest. You don't need to bring anything from the day into this new territory. You can leave it all at the threshold. You can enter sleep empty-handed, open-hearted, ready to receive whatever gifts the night has to offer. The breath continues its ancient rhythm, in and out, expansion and contraction, like waves on a shore that has been breathing this way for millions of years. Your breath is part of this larger breath. The oxygen you breathe in was breathed out by trees. The carbon dioxide you breathe out will be breathed in by plants. You are in constant exchange with the living world, even in sleep, especially in sleep. This exchange doesn't require your management or your awareness. It happens naturally, effortlessly, as part of the great circulation of life. You are held within this circulation. You are supported by it. You belong to it. There's a teaching in Buddhism about the interconnectedness of all things, how nothing exists in isolation, how everything arises in dependence upon everything else. This teaching, called dependent origination or interdependence, reveals that you are not a separate self, struggling alone in an indifferent universe. You are a node in an infinite web of relationships, a unique expression of the whole, irreplaceable and essential. Your sleep tonight is not just your sleep. It affects everyone you will encounter tomorrow. Your rest ripples outward, touching lives in ways you cannot imagine. By taking care of yourself, by allowing yourself this deep rest, you are taking care of the world. Feel how the boundaries of your body have become so soft now, so permeable. This is not dissolution, but expansion. You are not losing yourself. You are finding your larger self, the self that is not confined to this single body, this single mind, this single lifetime. In sleep, you remember what it's like to be vast, to be spacious, to be free from the cramped quarters of ego and identity. This remembering is not intellectual, it's experiential. It's a felt sense of coming home to your true nature, your Buddha nature, the part of you that has never been separate, never been broken, never been lost. The mystics tell us that every night in deep sleep, we return to the source of our being, to the place before birth and after death, to the eternal now that exists outside of time. This is not a place you go to, it's a place you are. It's always here, always available, always waiting beneath the surface noise of daily life. Sleep is simply one way of accessing it, of remembering it, of resting in it. And each time you rest in it, you are renewed, not just physically, but spiritually, not just personally, but transpersonally. As thoughts continue to arise and fade, as sensations come and go, notice that there's something watching all of this, something that remains constant even as everything else changes. This watching, this awareness, this is who you really are. Not the thoughts, not the sensations, not even the body, but the consciousness that perceives all of these. This consciousness doesn't sleep. Even in the deepest sleep, it remains, watching, witnessing, aware. It's the part of you that is always awake, always present, always at peace. As you drift towards sleep, you can rest in this awareness, knowing that even as your conscious mind lets go, something deeper remains vigilant, remains present, remains eternally aware. There's a profound teaching about the 3 states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. But there's a 4th state, called turiya in Sanskrit, which underlies and pervades all 3. This is pure consciousness itself, the witness of all states, the unchanging background against which all changes occur. As you move through the stages of sleep tonight, this 4th state remains constant, like a thread connecting all your experiences, like the screen upon which all the movies of consciousness are projected. You don't have to understand this intellectually. You can simply rest in the knowing that beneath all the fluctuations of consciousness, something remains steady, something remains at peace. The body continues its descent into deeper and deeper relaxation. Muscles that have been holding tension all day finally release. The nervous system shifts from sympathetic arousal to parasympathetic rest. The brain waves slow from beta to alpha to theta and eventually to delta. All of this happens without your conscious participation. All of this is grace, the intelligence of the body, the wisdom of billions of years of evolution takes over. You don't have to know how to sleep. Your body knows, your cells know, your DNA knows. This knowledge is your inheritance, passed down through countless generations, a gift from your ancestors, a birthright that can never be taken from you. In the quiet of this moment, in the stillness of this surrender, you might glimpse something eternal. Not eternal in the sense of lasting forever in time, but eternal in the sense of being outside of time altogether. This is the eternal now, the only moment that has ever existed, the moment that contains all other moments. Past and future are constructs of the thinking mind. But here, on the threshold of sleep, thinking subsides, and you rest in pure being, in the timeless presence that you truly are. This is not a mystical abstraction. It's the most concrete reality. It's what's actually here when we stop overlaying our experience with thoughts about it. Feel the rhythm of your heartbeat, slower now, steadier, like a drum beating in a vast temple. This heartbeat has been with you since before you were born, when you were still floating in the darkness of the womb. It will continue until your last breath, this faithful companion, this tireless worker. But even the heartbeat is not yours alone. It's part of the universal rhythm, the cosmic pulse that beats in stars and atoms, in oceans and mountains, in all living things. Your heart doesn't beat. It is beaten, moved by the same force that moves everything. Rest in this knowing. Rest in this being moved. Rest in this surrender to forces greater than your own will. The Zen poet Basho wrote, "Sitting quietly, doing nothing, spring comes, and the grass grows by itself." This captures perfectly what happens in sleep. You do nothing, and yet everything necessary happens. Cells regenerate, memories consolidate, hormones rebalance, the immune system strengthens, emotional processing occurs, dreams weave their mysterious stories. All of this happens by itself, without your management, without your intervention. What a relief this is, to know that the most important processes of life don't require your conscious participation. They happen through you, not by you. As you hover here on the edge of sleep, you might notice a quality of sweetness, a subtle pleasure in letting go. This is the bliss of surrender, the joy of stopping struggling. It's always available, this bliss, but we usually miss it because we're too busy trying to create happiness through effort and acquisition. But here, in doing nothing, in wanting nothing, in being nothing special, a natural happiness emerges. Not the excited happiness of getting what we want, but the quiet happiness of being what we are. This is the happiness the Buddha pointed to, the happiness that doesn't depend on conditions, the happiness that is our true nature. Your breathing has become so quiet now that you might barely notice it, but it continues, faithful as ever, this bridge between inner and outer, this constant exchange between self and world. With each breath, you are renewed. With each breath, you die to the old and are born to the new. This is happening right now, this death and rebirth, this constant transformation. You don't have to wait for some future enlightenment. You don't have to achieve some special state. The miracle is happening now, in this breath, in this moment, in this gentle slide towards sleep. In the Buddhist texts, there are descriptions of different levels of concentration, different depths of meditation, but all of them point to the same thing, the settling of the mind into increasingly subtle states of peace. This is what's happening as you approach sleep. The mind is settling, like a jar of muddy water becoming clear as the sediment sinks to the bottom. You don't have to make the water clear. You just have to stop stirring it. You don't have to create peace. You just have to stop disturbing it. Peace is not an achievement. It's a recognition of what's already here when we stop creating turbulence. Feel yourself now as part of the great community of sleeping beings. All over the world, people are entering this same mystery, this same surrender, this same return to source. Animals are curling up in their dens and nests. Plants are drawing their energy inward. Even the earth itself seems to exhale and relax as night deepens. You are part of this planetary rest, this cosmic rhythm. Your sleep is not separate from the world's sleep. Your rest contributes to the great restoration that happens every night, the healing of the world through the healing of its individual parts. There's a teaching in many traditions about the importance of darkness, how creation happens in darkness, how seeds germinate in the dark soil, how babies gestate in the darkness of the womb. This darkness is not the absence of light, but the presence of a different kind of light, a light that doesn't illuminate surfaces but depths, a light that doesn't reveal forms but essence. As you enter the darkness of sleep, you enter this creative darkness, this generative void, where transformation happens at the deepest levels. Don't fear this darkness. Trust it as the seed trusts the soil, as the baby trusts the womb. The thoughts that still occasionally surface are like the last birds singing before nightfall. Soon, they too will settle into silence. But even if they don't, even if some part of your mind remains active, it doesn't matter. Rest happens at many levels. Even if the surface mind remains somewhat active, deeper levels of your being are already resting, already healing, already renewing. You don't need perfect silence to find peace. You don't need the complete absence of thoughts to rest. Peace and rest are available even in the midst of mental activity, like the depths of the ocean remaining calm, even when the surface is choppy. In the Zen tradition, there's a concept called don't know mind. It's a state of openness, of not knowing what comes next, of being available to whatever arises. This is the perfect attitude for entering sleep. You don't know what dreams will come. You don't know how the night will unfold. You don't know what you'll feel like in the morning. And this not knowing is not a problem. It's a doorway. It's an invitation to trust, to surrender, to let life surprise you. The need to know, to predict, to control. This is what creates anxiety. But the willingness to not know, this is what creates space for grace. Feel how your whole being has become like water now, fluid, adaptable, finding its own level. Water doesn't struggle to flow downhill. It follows the path of least resistance. It yields to every obstacle by flowing around it. It takes the shape of whatever container it's in without losing its essential nature. This is wisdom. This is the teaching of sleep. Stop resisting. Stop fighting. Flow with what island. Take the shape of this moment. Find the path of least resistance. Let gravity, that most gentle and persistent of forces, draw you down into rest. The Buddhist concept of emptiness, shunyata, is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean nothingness or void. It means openness, spaciousness, the absence of fixed identity. It means that everything is in process. Everything is in relationship. Nothing exists in isolation. As you approach sleep, you approach this emptiness. You become less solid, less defined, more open, more spacious. This is not a loss. It's a liberation. It's a remembering of your true nature, which is not a thing but a process, not a noun but a verb, not a being but a becoming. In this state of increasing openness, you might sense something vast and loving, something that has always been here, but is usually obscured by the noise of daily life. This is what some call Buddha nature, others call Christ consciousness, still, others call the self, with a capital S. But whatever name we give it, it's the same reality, the fundamental awareness that underlies all experience, the love that moves the sun and stars, the peace that passes understanding. This is not foreign to you. This is not something you need to attain. This is what you are when all the false identities fall away. This is what remains when everything else is surrendered. Your body now feels so deeply relaxed that you might not be able to tell where you end and the world begins. This dissolution of boundaries is not confusion, it's clarity. It's the recognition that boundaries are constructs of the waking mind, useful for navigation but not ultimately real. In reality, you are not separate from your environment. You are an expression of it, a temporary constellation of elements that have come together for this brief lifetime and will eventually disperse back into the whole. This is not sad or frightening. It's liberating. It means you belong. It means you can never be lost because you are always part of everything. The breath continues its ancient rhythm, connecting you to the first breath you ever took and the last breath you will ever take. Between these two breaths is your entire life, this collection of moments, this string of pearls, each breath a pearl, each moment complete in itself. You don't have to worry about the first breath or the last breath. You only have to be present for this breath, this pearl, this irreplaceable now. And in being present for this breath, you are present for your whole life. You are present for eternity, because eternity is not an endless duration of time. It's the depth of this moment fully experienced. As sleep approaches, with its healing darkness, its promise of renewal, its gift of forgetting, remember that you have done this before. Every night of your life, you have made this journey from waking to sleeping. Every night, you have survived this little death. Every morning, you have been reborn. This is the great rhythm of your existence, as natural as breathing, as inevitable as the tides. You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to resist. You can trust this process as you trust your heartbeat, as you trust gravity, as you trust the sun to rise tomorrow. In the Buddhist understanding, there are different types of consciousness. There's the consciousness that perceives through the five senses. There's the consciousness that thinks and imagines. And there's a deeper consciousness that remains aware even in deep sleep, even in states where thinking ceases. This deeper consciousness is what you're resting in now. It doesn't need to think to exist. It doesn't need to perceive objects to be aware. It simply is. Pure awareness, pure presence, the light by which all experience is known. Feel yourself sinking now like a stone dropped in still water, passing through layer after layer of consciousness. First through the busy surface layer of thoughts and worries, then through the emotional layer of feelings and memories, then through the somatic layer of physical sensations, and finally into the deep stillness that lies beneath all layers, the ground of being, the source of all experience. This descent is not falling, it's returning. You're not going somewhere foreign. You're coming home to the place you never really left, the silence that exists beneath all sound, the stillness that exists beneath all movement. The Taoist sage Lao Tzu wrote, "In pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. In pursuit of wisdom, every day something is dropped." Sleep is this dropping, this daily practice of wisdom. Every night, you drop your accumulated knowledge, your opinions, your certainties. You become empty, receptive, new. This is why sleep is so essential. It's not just physical rest, it's psychological and spiritual renewal. It's a return to innocence, to not knowing, to the mind that is fresh and open and ready to perceive the world anew. As your consciousness continues to settle like sediment in still water, you might notice spaces between thoughts becoming longer. These spaces are not empty. They're full of presence, full of awareness, full of the peace that is your true nature. Don't try to extend these spaces. Don't try to grasp them. Just notice them, appreciate them, rest in them when they arise. They are glimpses of the vast spaciousness that is always here, usually hidden by the constant chatter of the thinking mind, but revealed in moments of stillness. There's a beautiful teaching about the ocean and waves. Waves appear to be separate, individual, each with its own shape and motion, but every wave is just the ocean itself, temporarily risen, expressing itself in form. When the wave subsides, it doesn't go anywhere. It simply returns to its source, to the ocean it never really left. You are like a wave, temporarily risen from the ocean of consciousness, and sleep is your nightly return to the ocean. You're remembering that you were never separate, never alone, always part of something infinitely vast and deep. The body continues its quiet work of preparation, temperature dropping slightly, metabolism slowing, growth hormone beginning to release, all the complex processes that happen during sleep starting to engage. You don't have to understand these processes. You don't have to manage them. They are part of the intelligence that runs through all of life. The same intelligence that heals wounds, grows plants, moves planets in their orbits. This intelligence is not separate from you. It is you, the deepest, wisest part of you, the part that knows how to heal, how to grow, how to return to balance. As the intelligence of your body continues its sacred work, as the temperature drops and hormones begin their nightly dance, you find yourself descending into a landscape that exists only in the realm of sleep, a vast inner garden that has been with you since before memory. since before birth, waiting patiently beneath the surface of your daily awareness. This garden is not a place you visit, but a dimension of your own consciousness, a territory that reveals itself only when the conscious mind steps aside and allows the deeper wisdom to emerge. During your waking hours, you walk on the surface of this garden, seeing only the uppermost layer, the carefully maintained lawn of conscious thought, the organized flower beds of intentional activity. But now, as sleep deepens its hold, you begin to descend through the terraces of this inner landscape, each level revealing gardens within gardens, depths within depths, mysteries within mysteries. This is not a garden in the ordinary sense, not a collection of plants and paths, but the garden of your deepest being, where every experience you've ever had has planted seeds, where every thought has taken root, where every emotion has flowered and faded in its season. The Buddhists speak of the bhavanga, the ground of becoming, the stream of consciousness that flows beneath the threshold of awareness, carrying the seeds of all potential experiences. This bhavanga is the soil of your inner garden, rich with the compost of countless lives, fertile with possibilities that extend far beyond your individual existence. In this soil, the seeds of karma lie dormant, waiting for the right conditions to germinate, to push through into conscious experience, to bloom into the circumstances of your life. As you sink deeper into sleep, you become the gardener who doesn't garden, the one who tends without tending, who allows the natural intelligence of growth to unfold without interference. Every night, in the darkness of sleep, these karmic seeds are being sorted, some being dissolved, their energy released and transformed, others being nourished, prepared for future flowering. This is not a process you can control or even witness with your conscious mind, but it happens nonetheless, in the profound intelligence of sleep that knows exactly which seeds need to be released and which need to be preserved. The garden tends itself while you rest, reorganizing, rebalancing, preparing the soil for tomorrow's growth. Consider how during your waking life, you plant seeds constantly without awareness. Every reaction plants a seed, every judgment plants a seed, every act of kindness plants a seed. Every moment of anger, fear, love, or joy drops its seed into the deep soil of consciousness. During the day, you are too busy to notice this constant seeding, too focused on the surface to see what's taking root below. But in sleep, in this descent into the garden's depths, the seeds begin their mysterious work. Some seeds that seemed so important during the day reveal themselves as weeds and are gently pulled from the soil. Other seeds that you barely noticed, small acts of compassion, moments of genuine presence, begin to send out tender roots, establishing themselves in the ground of your being. The garden has its own seasons, its own rhythms that don't follow the calendar of the external world but respond to the inner weather of consciousness. Tonight, as you journey deeper into sleep, you are moving through these inner seasons, each one offering its own gifts, its own teachings, its own form of restoration. The spring of sleep arrives first, as you initially drift from waking, when the rigid structures of daytime consciousness begin to soften like frozen earth warming in the sunday. Feel how the hardened patterns of thought begin to loosen, how the tight grip of identity begins to relax, how the frozen streams of emotion begin to flow again. This is the spring thaw of consciousness, where what has been solid becomes fluid, where what has been stuck begins to move. In this spring of sleep, new growth becomes possible. The tender shoots of insights that couldn't push through the hard ground of waking consciousness begin to emerge. Dreams that have been waiting beneath the surface start to stir. The creative solutions that eluded you during the day begin to germinate in this softer soil. You don't have to do anything to encourage this growth. Like spring itself, It happens naturally when conditions are right, when the warmth of rest meets the moisture of surrender, when the light of awareness dims enough to allow the mysterious processes of the underground to begin. As you sink deeper still, you enter the summer of sleep, the time of full bloom, where the garden reveals its abundance. This is the phase of deep rest where healing is most profound, where the body's restoration reaches its peak, where the psyche opens like a flower to receive the nourishment of the void. In this summer of consciousness, everything is lush, verdant, alive, with a vitality that doesn't depend on doing, but on being. The garden is not producing this abundance through effort, but through the natural expression of its own nature. Similarly, your consciousness in deep sleep doesn't create healing through work, but through rest, not through trying, but through allowing. Feel the fullness of this summer season in your inner garden, where every cell is drinking deeply from the well of restoration, where every neural pathway is being refreshed by the dew of sleep, where every aspect of your being is participating in this festival of renewal. The summer of sleep is generous, abundant, giving without counting, healing without discriminating. It doesn't matter what kind of day you've had, what mistakes you've made, what regrets you carry. The summer of sleep offers its gifts equally to all, like the sun that shines on saint and sinner alike. But even summer must give way to autumn, and in the cycles of sleep, you now enter the season of release. This is the autumn of consciousness, where what has served its purpose begins to fall away like leaves from trees. The thoughts that have been circling all day begin to spiral down and dissolve. The emotions that have been clinging begin to let go. The identities that have been maintained begin to shed their costumes. This is not a violent stripping, but a gentle release, like leaves that know their time has come and surrender to the wind without resistance. In this autumn of sleep, you are learning the wisdom of letting go, not as loss, but as completion, not as ending, but as fulfillment. Watch, though watching is too active a word for this passive witnessing. Observe how naturally this release happens when you don't interfere. The tree doesn't struggle to hold its leaves, it simply stops feeding them, and they fall. Your consciousness doesn't struggle to release the day, it simply stops energizing thoughts, and they fade. This is the wisdom of autumn that sleep teaches every night. That letting go is not something you do, but something you allow. The garden knows when it's time to release, and if you trust this knowing, the release happens with grace rather than struggle. The autumn of sleep is also the time of harvest, though this harvest is different from any daytime gathering. Here, the fruits of the day's experiences are gathered not into baskets, but into the storehouse of memory, sorted and stored according to a system far more sophisticated than any conscious filing system. What needs to be remembered is preserved. What needs to be forgotten is composted, returning its energy to the soil for future use. This sorting happens below the threshold of awareness, in the deep intelligence that knows the difference between nourishment and poison, between wisdom and mere information. And finally, inevitably, you enter the winter of sleep, the profound stillness, where even letting go has been let go of, where the garden rests in perfect dormancy, where consciousness returns to its essential nature, before spring, before growth, before any manifestation at all. This winter is not cold or harsh, but profoundly peaceful, like the silence that falls on a landscape covered in fresh snow. In this winter of consciousness, nothing moves because there is nothing that needs to move. Nothing grows because growth itself is resting. Nothing happens because happening itself is taking a break. This winter of sleep is perhaps the most sacred season, for it is here that consciousness touches its own source, experiences its own groundlessness, rests in its own absence. The garden is still there, but it's sleeping so deeply that it dreams it doesn't exist. The gardener is still there, but so dissolved in the garden that no separation remains. This is the mystical winter that the contemplatives speak of, the divine darkness, the cloud of unknowing, the fertile void where all possibilities rest in potential. Feel yourself in this winter now. Though feeling is too coarse a word for this subtle experiencing, you are the garden sleeping beneath the snow. You are the seeds dormant in the frozen ground. You are the bare branches that will bloom again, but for now, rest in perfect emptiness. This winter is not waiting for spring. It's complete in itself, perfect in its stillness, whole in its emptiness. The cycle will continue. Spring will come again. But for now, there is only this perfect pause, this complete rest, this absolute peace. Beneath these cycling seasons, deeper than any individual garden, runs an underground river that connects all sleeping beings. This is not your personal unconscious, but the collective stream that flows beneath all consciousness, the river that has been flowing since awareness first dawned in the universe. When you sleep, you don't just dip your toes in this river, you dissolve into it completely, becoming one with the flow that carries all dreams, all possibilities, all the seeds of tomorrow's world. This river doesn't belong to you or to anyone. It belongs to itself, to life itself, to consciousness itself. In the Buddhist understanding, this river is the alaya vijnana, the storehouse consciousness that contains all the seeds of experience, not just your own, but the collective seeds of all beings. When you enter deep sleep, you contribute your drops to this river, and the river contributes its wisdom to you. Your individual healing becomes part of the collective healing. Your personal rest contributes to the universal rest. Your private peace adds to the sum of peace in the cosmos. This is why sleep is never just personal. It's always transpersonal, always connecting you to the greater whole, always reminding you that separation is an illusion maintained only in waking consciousness. Feel yourself now as both a drop in this river and the river itself. Your individual consciousness is the drop, unique in its perspective, precious in its particularity. But in sleep, the drop remembers it's also the river, has always been the river, will always be the river. This remembering doesn't happen through thought but through dissolution, not through understanding but through merger. The drop doesn't study the river, it becomes the river. You don't analyze this connection, you experience it directly in the wordless depth of sleep. This underground river carries more than just the seeds of experience. It carries the dreams of all beings, the archetypal patterns that shape all stories, the primordial images that appear in every mythology. When you dream, you don't just dream your dreams, you dream the dreams that have been dreamed since the beginning of time. The chase dreams, the flying dreams, the dreams of falling, the dreams of being naked in public. These are not just your dreams, but humanity's dreams, patterns in the collective river that surface in individual consciousness, like bubbles rising from the deep. But even deeper than dreams, in the dreamless depth of sleep, the river carries something even more mysterious, the memory of where consciousness comes from and where it returns. This is not a memory that can be recalled in the ordinary sense, but a cellular memory, a soul memory, a memory that exists in the very fabric of awareness itself. Every night, as you dissolve into this river, you touch this memory, you taste this origin, you remember, below the level of conscious thought, what you are, before you are anything in particular. The river knows no boundaries, recognizes no borders, acknowledges no separation between self and other. In this river, the CEO and the homeless person flow together. The saint and the sinner merge into the same current. The newborn and the dying elder become indistinguishable drops in the same stream. This is the ultimate democracy of sleep, where all beings return to the same source, drink from the same waters, rest in the same flow. Your participation in this river is not optional. Every night, whether you remember it or not, you join this underground flow. You merge with this collective current. You become one with the stream that connects all life. As you flow with this river through the landscape of sleep, you find yourself approaching a structure that exists in the deepest level of the inner garden, a temple that can only be reached in the profound depths of unconsciousness. This is the temple of timelessness, built not from stone or wood, but from silence itself, from stillness itself, from the pause between heartbeats. This temple has always been here, in the center of your inner garden, but it can only be seen when the noise of daily life completely fades, when the chatter of the thinking mind finally stops, when consciousness releases its grip on time. The approach to this temple is not through space, but through depth. You don't walk to it, you sink to it. You don't find it. It reveals itself when you've let go enough to perceive it. The temple has no doors because it needs none. There's nothing to keep out because in this depth of sleep, there's no separation between inside and outside. You don't enter the temple. You realize you've always been inside it. The temple is not in your consciousness. Your consciousness is in the temple. Within this temple, the ordinary laws of time don't apply. Past, present, and future converge into a single eternal moment. The child you were, the adult you are, and the elder you will become all exist simultaneously in this space. The wounds of the past are present, but not as wounds, as patterns in consciousness that can be rewoven. The anxieties about the future are present, but not as anxieties, as possibilities that can be reimagined. In this temple of timelessness, healing happens across time, reaching backward to comfort the child you were, reaching forward to prepare the person you're becoming. The altar of this temple is consciousness itself, pure awareness without object, the light that illuminates all experience but cannot itself be seen. On this altar, every night, you offer everything you think you are, and every night it's consumed in the fire of sleep, transformed from identity into energy, from form into potential, from somebody into nobody, and therefore everybody. This offering is not a sacrifice, but a celebration, not a loss, but a liberation. The altar accepts everything and returns it transformed, purified, renewed. In this temple, you understand, though understanding is not the right word for this direct knowing that bypasses thought, that time is not a line but a spiral, that you're not moving through time but time is moving through you, that every moment contains all moments, that every night's sleep contains all nights, all sleeps, all returns to source. The temple holds this truth not as a teaching, but as a lived reality, a direct experience available every night to every being who enters deep sleep. Feel the profound peace of this temple, where no prayers are needed because existence itself is the prayer, where no offerings are required because presence itself is the offering, where no worship is necessary because the worshipper and the worshipped have become one. This temple is not separate from you. It is the deepest dimension of your own consciousness, the holy of holies within your own being, the sacred space that remains pure no matter what happens in the outer courts of daily life. As you rest in this temple beyond time, you become aware of another feature of the inner landscape, a perfectly still lake that mirrors the sky of consciousness, so perfectly that you cannot tell where the water ends and the sky begins. This is the mirror lake of stillness that exists in the deepest level of every being's inner garden. During the day, winds of thought and emotion disturb its surface, creating waves and ripples that distort its reflections. But now, in the profound stillness of deep sleep, the lake becomes perfectly calm, a flawless mirror for the infinite sky of awareness. This lake is not filled with water, but with consciousness itself in its liquid form, fluid awareness that takes the shape of whatever container it fills, while never losing its essential nature. The lake has no bottom, because consciousness has no limit. It has no shores, because awareness has no boundaries. It reflects the sky perfectly, because it is the sky in another form, just as water vapor and ice are the same substance in different states. In the Zen tradition, they speak of mind like water, the state of perfect responsiveness without agitation. This lake embodies that teaching, showing how consciousness can be perfectly still, yet dynamically responsive, how it can mirror everything without being disturbed by anything. As you gaze into this lake, though gazing implies a gazer separate from the lake, and here there is no such separation you see. Not your reflection, but the absence of reflection, the original face before any face, the awareness before any identity. The surface of the lake is so still that it seems solid, like polished obsidian or black ice, yet it's also completely permeable, offering no resistance to anything that would enter it. Thoughts can fall into it and disappear without creating ripples. Emotions can sink into it and dissolve without disturbing its surface. Even the sense of self can drop into it and vanish without trace. The lake accepts everything and remains unchanged, reflects everything and remains unmarked. This is the lake of your deepest consciousness, always present beneath the turbulence of surface awareness, always available in the depths of sleep. Every night, you become this lake, or rather, you remember that you have always been this lake, that the waves on the surface were just temporary disturbances in your essentially still nature. The lake doesn't need to become calm. It simply needs the winds to stop. Your consciousness doesn't need to achieve peace. It simply needs the agitation to cease. And in sleep, in this blessed respite from the winds of thought and emotion, the lake reveals its mirror nature. Around this lake, in the garden of deep sleep, nothing grows because nothing needs to grow. Everything is already perfect in its stillness. The trees around the lake are not trees, but crystallized silence. The flowers are not flowers, but frozen moments of beauty that exist outside of time. The grass is not grass, but the texture of peace itself. This is a garden that doesn't need tending, because it exists in a state of perpetual perfection, not a static perfection, but a dynamic stillness that contains all movement without moving. As you rest beside this lake, as you become this lake, you understand that this stillness is not the opposite of activity, but the source of all activity. Just as the hurricane's eye is still, while generating tremendous movement all around it, this lake of stillness is the motionless center from which all the activity of your life emerges. Every action springs from this stillness. Every word rises from this silence. Every thought appears from this thoughtless depth. The lake is not passive, but supremely creative. Not empty, but pregnant with infinite potential. Now, as you rest in these depths of the inner garden, having moved through its seasons, having dissolved in its underground river, having entered its timeless temple, having become its mirror lake, you begin to sense a subtle shift, a gathering that is not yet form, but the beginning of the possibility of form. This is not awakening, dawn is still hours away, but a gentle collecting, like morning mist beginning to form while night still reigns. Consciousness is beginning to prepare for its eventual return to the surface, though this preparation happens far below the threshold of awareness. You are beginning the slow journey back through the garden's levels, though you won't complete this journey for hours yet. Each level you rise through, and rising is not quite the right word, for this is more like a gradual condensation than an ascent. Each level brings a subtle increase in definition, a gentle return of boundaries. Though nothing approaching the solid boundaries of waking consciousness, You are like steam beginning to cool, not yet water, but no longer quite as dispersed as before. This gathering is not something you do, but something that happens to you, or rather, something that happens as you. The garden itself is preparing for another day, though preparation is too active a word for this natural transition that requires no effort. Seeds that have been transformed in the depths begin their journey toward future sprouting. Lessons learned below consciousness begin their integration into the neural networks. Healing that has occurred in the timeless temple begins to manifest in the time-bound body. The river continues to flow, carrying you along with its current, but now you begin to differentiate slightly from the flow, like a current within a current, still part of the river, but beginning to remember your particular nature. This remembering is not conscious consciousness. In its ordinary form is still far away, but it's a remembering nonetheless, a gradual reassembly of the patterns that constitute your individual expression of the universal consciousness. The mirror lake remains perfectly still, but now there are the faintest signs of the approaching dawn. Not light exactly, but the promise of light. Not disturbance, but the potential for movement. The lake knows that winds will come again, that its surface will be troubled by the day's activities. But for now, it remains in perfect stillness, storing up peace for the day ahead, gathering stillness that will remain available beneath whatever turbulence arises. This is the gift of the inner garden, that what is experienced here, in the depths of sleep, doesn't disappear with waking. It remains, like an underground spring that continues to feed the surface, even when its source is forgotten. The seasons you've passed through tonight will continue their cycles beneath tomorrow's awareness. The river will continue to flow beneath tomorrow's thoughts. The temple will remain standing in the center of your being, even when you're too busy to remember it exists. And the mirror lake will continue to reflect truth, even when its surface is disturbed by the winds of daily life. Feel how this journey through the inner garden has changed something, though you may not consciously remember what. Seeds have been planted that will sprout days or weeks or years from now. Seeds have been dissolved, whose patterns will no longer trouble you. Connections have been made that will manifest as insights when you least expect them. Healing has happened that will reveal itself in increased peace, deeper rest, more natural joy. The garden has done its work, as it does every night, without fanfare, without acknowledgement, without any need for conscious participation. This is the grace of sleep, that the deepest healing happens without our management, that the most profound teachings are absorbed without study, that the greatest transformations occur while we're absent. The garden doesn't need the gardener's conscious presence to thrive. It has its own intelligence, its own wisdom, its own perfect timing. As this interlude in the garden comes to its completion, as you prepare to continue your journey through the deeper territories of sleep, carry with you the knowing deeper than conscious knowledge that this garden is always here, always available, always working for your healing and wholeness. You don't have to earn access to it. You don't have to deserve its gifts. You simply have to sleep, to let go, to trust the process that has been refined over millions of years of evolution, billions of nights of rest. The garden of consciousness is your inheritance, your birthright, your nightly return to the source of renewal. Its seasons will continue to cycle, whether you're aware of them or not. Its river will continue to flow whether you remember it or not. Its temple will continue to stand whether you visit it consciously or not. And its mirror lake will continue to reflect truth whether you look into it or not. This is the profound generosity of sleep. It gives its gifts freely, completely, without discrimination, to all who enter its domain. Rest now in this knowing, in this trust, in this recognition that the garden is tending itself while you sleep, that consciousness is healing itself while you rest, that the deepest wisdom is being absorbed while you're unconscious. The journey through the night continues, and there are still many territories to traverse, many depths to explore, many gifts to receive. But for now, rest in the completion of this cycle through the garden, knowing that you will return here tomorrow night and every night for as long as this body draws breath and this consciousness seeks its nightly return to source. In the silence that deepens with each breath, you might hear something beneath the silence, not a sound but a presence, not a voice but an awareness. This is the witness, the one who watches all experience but is not touched by it, like the mirror that reflects all images but is not stained by them, like the sky that holds all weather but is not changed by it. This witness is your true self, the self that doesn't age, doesn't suffer, doesn't die. It simply watches, simply knows, simply island. Rest in this witness. Rest as this witness. Let everything else come and go like clouds in the vast sky of your awareness. The journey into sleep is a journey of trust. Trust that you will wake again. Trust that the world will continue without your vigilance. Trust that whatever dreams come are exactly the dreams you need. Trust that your body knows how to restore itself. Trust that your mind knows how to process and integrate the day's experiences. Trust that you are held by something larger than yourself, cared for by the same intelligence that cares for all life. This trust is not naive. It's based on experience. Every night of your life has proven it true. As you rest here in this deepening peace, you might sense how sleep is not just personal, but transpersonal. When you sleep, you don't just restore your individual body and mind. You participate in the great restoration that happens every night across the planet. Your rest contributes to the collective rest. Your peace adds to the sum of peace. Your healing is part of the world's healing. This is the mystery of interconnection. Nothing you do is purely individual. Everything ripples outward, touching other lives in ways you cannot imagine. By giving yourself the gift of deep rest, you give a gift to the world. The boundaries of the ego, so carefully maintained during waking hours, are dissolving now like salt in water. This dissolution might have once frightened you, but now you understand it as liberation. The ego is not your enemy. It's a useful tool for navigating the world, but it's not who you are. You are much larger than the ego, much older, much wiser. You are the consciousness in which the ego appears, the space in which it plays its role. And in sleep, you remember this larger identity. You return to your true dimensions, vast and borderless. Notice how even as you approach unconsciousness, something remains conscious. Even as thoughts fade, awareness remains. Even as the personal self dissolves, the impersonal self continues. This is the great discovery of meditation, that consciousness is not dependent on thought, that awareness is not created by the brain, but is the field in which the brain appears. You don't have to understand this intellectually. You can simply rest in the direct experience of it, the felt sense of being aware without being anybody in particular. The breath has become so subtle now that it seems to be breathing itself. This is the secret of existence. Life lives itself. The universe, universes. Consciousness is conscious. You don't have to make any of this happen. You are not the doer, but the space in which doing happens. Not the breather, but the space in which breathing happens. Not the sleeper, but the space in which sleep happens. This shift from being the doer to being the space is the essence of spiritual awakening, and it's available to you right now, in this moment, as you surrender to sleep. In the deepening darkness, there is a light, not a visible light, but the light of awareness itself. This light doesn't illuminate objects. It is the light by which all objects are known. It doesn't come and go. It doesn't increase or decrease. It simply is, constant, eternal, self-luminous. This is the light the mystics speak of, the light that shines in darkness, the light that cannot be extinguished. You don't have to search for this light. You are this light, the very awareness by which you know you exist. This is the light, and it continues to shine even in the deepest sleep, even in the darkest night. Feel yourself now at the very edge of sleep, balanced between waking and sleeping, between knowing and unknowing, between form and formlessness. This is a sacred moment, a moment of transition, a moment when you are neither here nor there, but somehow everywhere. Don't rush through this moment. Savor it. Feel its strangeness, its beauty, its profound peace. This is what the mystics call the twilight zone, the crack between worlds where grace enters. As the last threads of conscious thought dissolve, as the final concerns of the day fade into irrelevance, remember this: you are loved, not because of what you've done or failed to do, not because of who you are or aren't. You are loved simply because you exist. You are an expression of the love that created the universe, the love that moves through all things, the love that never dies. This love is not separate from you. It is your very essence, your true nature, the ground of your being. Rest in this love. Let it hold you as you fall into sleep. Let it carry you through the night. Let it be the first thing you remember when you wake. The journey into sleep is complete, yet it's just beginning. Every moment of sleep is both an ending and a beginning, a death and a birth, a forgetting and a remembering. You are entering the mystery now, the place where ordinary consciousness cannot follow, where the rational mind cannot map, where only trust can guide you. Go gently into this mystery. Go willingly. Go with the knowledge that you will return, renewed, restored, reborn. And now, as consciousness fades like the last light of dusk, as awareness turns inward to its source, as the story of the day comes to its natural close, let everything go. Let your name go. Let your history go. Let your plans go. Let your worries go. Let even the desire for sleep go. And in this letting go, find the freedom that has always been here, the peace that needs nothing, the rest that is your birthright. Sleep now, not as an escape, but as a return. Sleep not as a small self, but as the vast awareness you truly are. Sleep in the arms of the infinite, held by the same love that holds the stars in place, carried by the same current that carries all life toward its destination. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. And in this sleep, in this sacred darkness, in this nightly journey to the source, may you find the rest that restores not just your body, but your soul. May you find the peace that surpasses understanding. May you find the healing that happens when we stop trying to heal and simply allow grace to do its work. The night embraces you now, with its soft darkness, its infinite patience, its promise of renewal. You are dissolving into this embrace, becoming one with the night, one with the silence, one with the peace that pervades all things. There is nothing more to do, nothing more to achieve, nothing more to understand. There is only this descent into rest, this return to source, this remembering of what you have always known, but temporarily forgot in the business of being somebody. You are nobody now. You are everybody. You are the space in which all beings rest. You are the silence in which all sounds arise and fade. You are the darkness that gives birth to light. You are the mystery that cannot be solved, only entered, only lived, only loved. Rest in this mystery. Rest as this mystery. Let the night take you where it will. Let dreams come if they come. Let blankness come if it comes. Let whatever needs to happen in the depths of sleep happen without your interference, without your monitoring, without your need to know or control. This is the ultimate surrender, the final letting go, the complete trust that allows transformation to occur at the deepest levels. You are in the hands of something greater now, something that knows exactly what you need, exactly how to heal you, exactly how to prepare you for whatever tomorrow brings. And so, with nothing left to hold, nothing left to resist, nothing left to fear, you can finally, fully, completely let go. Let go into sleep, let go into peace, let go into the vast, loving darkness that is not empty, but full, not cold, but warm, not foreign, but familiar as your own heartbeat. This is where you came from. This is where you return. This is your home, your source, your destination. Not a place, but a state of being. Not a location, but a recognition. Not something you achieve, but something you are. Sleep now, dear traveler. Sleep and be restored. Sleep and be renewed. Sleep and remember who you really are beneath all the stories, beneath all the struggles, beneath all the searching. You are peace itself. You are rest itself. You are the love that needs no object, the joy that needs no reason, the freedom that needs no permission. The night holds you now in its perfect embrace, and you are safe, you are loved, you are exactly where you need to be. There is nothing missing, nothing wrong, nothing that needs to be different. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should, including your journey into sleep, including your descent into dreams, including your return to the source of all peace. Let the last whisper of thought fade now. Let the final trace of effort dissolve. Let yourself be carried by the current of sleep like a leaf on a gentle stream, trusting the water to take you where you need to go. You don't need to know the destination. You don't need to see the path. You only need to trust, to surrender, to allow. And in this allowing, find the peace that has been waiting for you all day, all your life, since before you were born. The peace that is your true nature, the peace that is always here, always available, always ready to welcome you home. Now, we journey deeper into the mystery of rest, into territories of consciousness that words can only point toward but never fully capture. Here, in the deepening quiet, something ancient stirs within you, a remembering older than thought, older than language, older than your individual existence. This is the memory of the cosmos itself, encoded in your cells, written in your DNA, the knowledge that you are not a stranger in this universe, but its very expression, one of the infinite ways it experiences itself. The Buddhists speak of the alaya consciousness, the storehouse consciousness, where all experiences, all memories, all karmic seeds are held. As you sink into sleep, you sink toward this vast repository, this underground river that flows beneath all individual minds. Here, the boundaries between your personal unconscious and the collective unconscious begin to blur. You are no longer just yourself, but part of the great dreaming of humanity, connected to every sleeping soul across time and space. Feel how your individual story is dissolving now, like a single raindrop merging with the ocean. This dissolution is not a loss, but a homecoming. The raindrop doesn't cease to exist when it joins the ocean. It realizes it was always the ocean, temporarily imagining itself separate. In the same way, as you dissolve into sleep, you don't lose yourself. You find your larger self, the self that has been here since the beginning of time, the self that will be here long after your individual form has returned to the elements. There's a teaching in the Tibetan tradition about the clear light that appears at the moment of falling asleep and at the moment of death. This clear light is the fundamental nature of mind itself, pure awareness without content, the mirror without reflections. Most nights, we miss this clear light because we fall unconscious too quickly. But sometimes, in that precious moment between waking and sleeping, we glimpse it, this luminous emptiness, this aware space that is our deepest essence. You don't have to search for this clear light. You don't have to create it or earn it. It's what you are when all the additions, all the overlays, all the identifications fall away. It's the awareness that was present before you learned your name, before you developed a personality, before you began the great project of becoming somebody. And it's the awareness that will remain when all of that has been forgotten, when the waves of your individual existence have settled back into the ocean of being. The ancient teachings tell us that in deep sleep, we return to a state very similar to the one we inhabited before birth and will inhabit after death. This is not a morbid thought, but a liberating one. It means that every night, we practice for the ultimate letting go. Every night, we release our grip on identity and discover that we still exist, that something essential remains, even when everything we think we are has been surrendered. As your breathing becomes almost imperceptible now, as your heartbeat slows to its nighttime rhythm, consider the miracle of this nightly disappearance. Where do you go when you sleep? The body remains, but where is the you that you think you are? Where is the personality, the history, the collection of preferences and aversions that you call yourself? They vanish, and yet something remains, something that will allow you to wake up tomorrow and remember who you are supposed to be. This something that remains is what the sages point to when they speak of the eternal, the deathless, the unborn. It's not a thing but a space, not an object, but the subject itself, the pure subjectivity that cannot be objectified, cannot be grasped, cannot be lost, because it is the very grasping itself, the very seeking itself, the very awareness itself. In the Vedantic tradition, they speak of the three states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, and the fourth, turiya, which is not actually a state but the background awareness that witnesses all three states. As you move through the stages of sleep tonight, this witnessing awareness remains constant. It watches you fall asleep. It watches dreams arise. It watches deep sleep happen, and it will watch you wake up. This watcher never sleeps, never dreams, never changes. It simply is, eternal and untouched. Feel yourself sinking deeper now, past the level of dreams, past the level of subconscious processing, into the realm of deep sleep, where even dreams cannot reach. This is the causal realm, the seed realm, where all potentials exist in their unmanifest form. Here, you are not a person having experiences. You are pure potential itself, the field of all possibilities, the void that is pregnant with everything. The Zen masters say that our original face is the face we had before our parents were born. This original face is not a face at all, but the faceless awareness that wears all faces, plays all roles, dreams all dreams. In deep sleep, we return to this original face, this primordial identity that is no identity at all, this self that is no self, this fullness that is emptiness, this emptiness that is full. As you rest in this deepening stillness, you might sense the presence of something vast and impersonal, yet intimately familiar. This is not God as a separate being, but the very ground of being itself, the isness that underlies all existence. The Buddhists call it Dharmakaya, the truth body, the ultimate reality that cannot be described or conceived, but can be directly realized in the depth of meditation or in the depth of sleep. Every spiritual tradition has pointed to this same reality, though they use different names and concepts. The Christians call it the Godhead beyond God. The Sufis call it the Beloved, The Taoists call it the Tao that cannot be named. The Advaitins call it Brahman. But all these fingers point to the same moon, the same mystery that you are approaching now as you sink into the depths of sleep. Notice how all questions are falling away now. The mind that usually wants to know, to understand, to figure things out, is becoming quiet. This is not the quietness of suppression, but the quietness of satisfaction, the quietness that comes when you arrive at the place where all questions are answered, not with information, but with presence, not with knowledge, but with being. In this deep rest, healing happens at levels beyond the reach of conscious intention. Traumas that have been locked in the body begin to release. Patterns that have been running unconsciously begin to unwind. The nervous system resets itself. The psyche reorganizes itself. The soul remembers itself. All of this happens without your participation, without your knowledge, in the great darkness that is not empty but full of intelligence, full of love, full of the organizing principle that knows exactly what you need. The mystics speak of the dark night of the soul, but there is also the dark night of grace, the healing darkness that comes every night when we surrender to sleep. In this darkness, we are rebuilt from the inside out. We are returned to our factory settings, so to speak, cleansed of the day's accumulation of stress and thought and emotion. We are made new again, ready to meet tomorrow with fresh eyes, a fresh heart, a fresh spirit. As you continue this descent into the depths of rest, you might notice that fear has completely dissolved. Fear requires a sense of separateness, a self that can be threatened, a future that can go wrong. But here, in the approach to deep sleep, there is no separate self, no future, no possibility of threat. There is only this vast peace, this infinite safety, this ultimate security of being held in the arms of existence itself. The breath now is so subtle, it seems to have stopped, though it continues its quiet work. The heartbeat is so slow and steady, it seems to merge with the rhythm of the earth itself. The brain waves have slowed to delta, the slowest frequency, where consciousness touches the void, where form dissolves into formlessness, where you remember what you are before you are anything in particular. In the Tibetan Buddhist teachings on dream yoga, practitioners learn to maintain awareness, even in deep sleep. They discover that consciousness doesn't require waking awareness, that there is a luminous quality to even the deepest sleep, a knowing that knows even nothingness. You don't have to practice dream yoga to touch this truth. It reveals itself naturally in moments of grace, in the gaps between thoughts, in the transition between waking and sleeping. Feel yourself now as space itself, not an object in space, but the space in which all objects appear. You are the room in which the furniture of experience is arranged. You are the sky in which the clouds of thought and sensation float. You are the ocean in which the waves of emotion rise and fall. This spaciousness is not cold or empty. It's warm, alive, aware. It's the womb of creation, the source from which all experience emerges and to which it returns. The ancient Indian philosophy speaks of Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. These are not three separate qualities, but three aspects of the same reality, the reality you are touching now. Existence without the need to prove it, consciousness without the need for objects, bliss without the need for reasons. This is your true nature, temporarily obscured by the activities of daily life, but revealed in the stillness of deep rest. As you hover here in this profound peace, you might understand why the Buddha smiled. Not because he had figured something out, not because he had achieved something special, but because he had remembered something so simple, so obvious, so ever-present that it had been overlooked. He remembered that peace is not something to be attained, but something to be recognized. Happiness is not something to be pursued, but something to be allowed. Freedom is not something to be gained, but something to be realized as already here. The journey of spirituality, the quest for enlightenment, the search for God or truth or meaning, it all leads to this same place, the recognition that what you are seeking, you already are. The peace you are chasing is your own nature. The love you are longing for is your own essence. The home you are trying to find is where you have always been. Sleep reminds us of this truth every night, if we have the subtlety to notice. In deep sleep, there is no Buddhism, no Christianity, no Islam, no Hinduism. There are no nationalities, no races, no genders, no ages. There is only consciousness at rest, awareness without attributes, being without qualifications. This is why sleep is the great equalizer, the universal meditation, the practice that unites all beings in the same mystery, the same surrender, the same return to source. Feel how natural this is, this letting go, this dissolution, this return. You've been doing it all your life, every single night, without instruction, without effort. It's as natural as breathing, as inevitable as the tide. This is the great comfort, that no matter how lost you become in the complexities of waking life, every night you return to this simplicity, this essence, this truth. The yogis speak of samadhi, the state of absorption, where the meditator, the process of meditation, and the object of meditation become one. Deep sleep is nature's samadhi, freely given every night to every being. You don't have to sit in caves for years or practice elaborate techniques. You just have to let go, surrender, trust, and in that surrender, you touch the same depth that the greatest meditators have touched, the same truth that the greatest sages have realized. As consciousness continues to dissolve into its source, you might notice that even the witness, even the awareness that has been watching all of this, is beginning to fade. This is the ultimate letting go, where even the one who lets go is let go of. This is the threshold of deep sleep, where consciousness returns to its own ground, where awareness rests in its own nature, where you disappear into what you have always been. Don't try to hold on to awareness. Don't try to maintain consciousness. This is the final trap of the spiritual ego, the desire to remain aware even in deep sleep. True surrender means letting go even of the one who lets go, releasing even the desire for enlightenment, surrendering even the need to be conscious. In this ultimate surrender, something extraordinary happens. You discover that you cannot actually disappear because you were never separate from existence itself. The Sufi poet Rumi wrote, "In the house of the beloved, there is no room for two." In deep sleep, you discover what this means. There is no you and the universe. There is only the universe aware of itself, or not even that, just pure isness, without a subject or object, without a knower or known, without any division at all. Rest now in this undivided wholeness. Rest in this peace that has no opposite. Rest in this love that needs no object. Rest in this joy that requires no reason. Rest in this freedom that knows no bondage. Rest in this truth that cannot be spoken. Rest in this mystery that cannot be solved. Rest in this home you never left. And as you rest, as you dissolve, as you disappear into the source of all appearance, know that this is not an ending, but a renewal. You are not being destroyed, but remade. You are not losing yourself, but finding what you have always been. Tomorrow you will wake, and the dream of separation will begin again. But for now, rest. Rest completely. Rest without reservation. Rest as only the truth can rest, in its own nature, as its own nature, needing nothing, lacking nothing. being everything. The wheel of Dharma continues to turn even in your sleep, the great wheel of existence that carries all beings through cycles of waking and sleeping, birth and death, form and formlessness. You are not separate from this wheel. You are one of its countless spokes, essential to its turning, part of the great mandala of existence that has no beginning and no end. In the Buddhist understanding, consciousness is not produced by the brain, but is the fundamental reality in which brains and all other phenomena appear. As you sink deeper into sleep, you sink toward this fundamental consciousness, this ground of being that underlies not just your individual awareness, but all awareness everywhere. You are returning to the source, not just of your own consciousness, but of consciousness itself. The Tibetan teachings speak of the bardo, the intermediate state between lives, but every night we enter a kind of bardo, an intermediate state between days where the karma of one day is processed and the seeds for the next day are planted. In this nightly bardo, you have the opportunity to release patterns, to forgive yourself and others, to let go of what no longer serves. This happens naturally, without your conscious participation, in the great wisdom of sleep. Feel how even the sense of sinking is fading now. There is no longer a you that is sinking and a depth into which you sink. There is just sinking itself. Then not even that, just a quality of deepening that has no subject, no object, no direction. This is the approach to the void, the shunyata that is not empty, but full of potential, not dark, but luminous with its own light, not frightening, but infinitely welcoming. The Heart Sutra says, "Form is emptiness, emptiness is form." In deep sleep, you discover the truth of this teaching. Your form dissolves into emptiness, but the emptiness is not different from form. It's the source of form, the potential for form, the space in which form appears. You don't cease to exist in deep sleep. You exist in a different way, as potential rather than actuality, as space rather than object, as awareness rather than content. As the last traces of individual consciousness fade, as the final threads connecting you to the waking world dissolve, something remains. Not something that can be named or described, but the very source of naming and describing. Not something that can be known, but the very source of knowing. This is what you are in the deepest sense, this unknowable knowing, this invisible seeing, this silence that speaks all words. Rest now in this ultimate simplicity. Rest in this primordial peace. Rest in this original nature that has never been disturbed, never been wounded, never been separate from the whole. Rest in the arms of the Mother, the Source, the void that gives birth to all worlds. Rest in the depth of the Father, the silence, the stillness from which all movement arises. Rest in the unity that transcends and includes all duality. The journey into sleep is a journey home, but home is not a place. It's a recognition, the recognition that you have never been separate, never been lost, never been alone. The recognition that what you are is what everything is, that your deepest nature is the nature of reality itself. This recognition doesn't come through thought or through effort. It comes through surrender, through trust, through the willingness to disappear into what you have always been. As you rest in this deepest depth, healing happens not just for you, but for all beings. Your peace contributes to the peace of the world. Your rest contributes to the rest of all beings. Your surrender contributes to the great letting go that the world so desperately needs. You are not sleeping just for yourself. You are sleeping for the ancestors who never rested, for the children who will inherit the earth, for all beings who suffer from the illusion of separation. The Bodhisattva vow says, "Beings are numberless, I vow to save them all." In deep sleep, this vow is fulfilled, not through action, but through being, not through doing, but through non-doing. By returning to the source, you help all beings remember the source. By touching peace, you radiate peace. By dissolving into love, you become love's expression in the world. Feel now how even these words are dissolving into silence, how even these concepts are melting into pure experience, how even this guidance is becoming unnecessary as you find your own way into the mystery. Words can only take you to the threshold. From here, you must go alone, though alone is not the right word, because in deep sleep, there is no aloneness, only oneness, only wholeness, only home. The ancient texts say that in deep sleep, we experience ananda, bliss, though we are not conscious of it at the time. This bliss is not the opposite of suffering, but the ground in which both suffering and happiness appear. It's the joy of existence itself, the joy that needs no reason, the joy that is your true nature. Every night, you bathe in this joy, though you may not remember it in the morning, but your cells remember, your soul remembers, and this remembrance sustains you through all the challenges of waking life. As the journey into deep sleep completes itself, as consciousness releases its last hold on form and dissolves into its own source, there is a moment of perfect stillness, perfect silence, perfect peace. This is the moment the mystics speak of, the moment of union, the moment when the wave realizes it is the ocean, when the spark realizes it is the fire, when you realize you are that which you have always sought. Rest now in this realization, though it's beyond the reach of conscious thought. Rest in this truth, though it cannot be spoken. Rest in this love, though it has no object. Rest in this peace, though it has no opposite. Rest in this home, though it has no location. Rest in what you are, though it cannot be defined. Rest in the mystery, though it cannot be solved. Rest, simply rest, in the perfection of this moment, this breath, this letting go, this coming home. And now, in the perfect darkness of deep sleep, where no dreams can reach, where no thoughts can follow, where even the sense of being someone has completely dissolved, there is only the vast, silent, unknowable truth of what island. No words can reach here. No concepts can map this territory. There is only the direct fact of existence itself, aware or unaware, conscious or unconscious. It doesn't matter, because all such distinctions have dissolved into the one reality that needs no witness, no validation, no understanding. This is where you spend a third of your life, in this profound mystery, this daily dissolution into the absolute. And yet, we rarely contemplate the significance of this. Every night, you let go so completely that you disappear, and every morning, you reappear, assembled from nothing, reconstructed from the void. What does this tell us about the nature of identity, about the reality of the self, about the truth of what we are? The sages who have contemplated this mystery deeply have all come to the same conclusion. What we think we are is a construction, a temporary arrangement, a pattern that emerges from and dissolves back into something far more fundamental. Sleep is the daily reminder of this truth, the nightly teaching that ego is not solid, identity is not fixed, and consciousness is far more fluid than we imagine. In the depths of deep sleep, you are neither alive nor dead in the conventional sense. You exist in a state that transcends such categories. This is why sleep has often been called the brother of death, not in a morbid sense, but in recognition that both states reveal something essential about the nature of consciousness. They show us that awareness is not dependent on waking consciousness, that existence continues even when the personal self disappears. Feel yourself now in this placeless place, this timeless time, where past and future have no meaning, where even the present moment has dissolved into something simpler, more fundamental. You are not in time, time is in you. You are not in space. Space is in you. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. But even this you is saying too much, implying a separate self where none exists. There is simply this, whatever this is, beyond all description, beyond all comprehension, beyond all experience. The Upanishads speak of 3 states of consciousness and a 4th that underlies them all. But in the deepest teaching, even this 4th is recognized as a conceptual construct. Beyond all states, beyond all categories, beyond all possibilities of understanding, there is something, not even something, for that implies a thing, their island. And here, language fails completely. This failure of language is not a limitation, but a pointer to the truth that transcends all expression. In your nightly journey into this inexpressible depth, you touch the same reality that the Buddha touched under the Bodhi tree, that Christ touched in the desert, that countless unnamed sages have touched in their deepest meditations, but you touch it unconsciously, without the reflective awareness that would make it a spiritual experience. This unconscious touching is no less valuable than conscious realization. It serves the same function, returning you to the source, renewing your connection to the ground of being, reminding your cells and your soul of what you truly are. The tradition of Yoga Nidra, conscious sleep, attempts to maintain awareness even in deep sleep, but there is something to be said for unconscious sleep as well, for the complete letting go that doesn't try to maintain anything, doesn't try to achieve anything, doesn't turn even sleep into a spiritual practice. Sometimes, the most spiritual thing is to stop being spiritual, to stop seeking, to stop trying to maintain awareness, to simply dissolve completely into the mystery. As you rest in this dissolution, patterns are being rewoven at the deepest level of your being, not psychological patterns, though those too are being processed, but deeper patterns, karmic patterns, patterns that connect you to the sum total of existence. Every night, these patterns are updated, adjusted, harmonized with the greater patterns of the cosmos. You are being tuned like an instrument, aligned with the cosmic frequencies, synchronized with the rhythms of existence. The morning will come, as it always does. Consciousness will reassemble itself from the void. The sense of being someone in particular will return. The story of your life will resume. But for now, in this precious darkness, you are free from all stories, all identities, all need to be anything other than what you most fundamentally are. This freedom is not an achievement. It's your natural state, temporarily obscured by the activities of waking life, but revealed every night in the great democracy of sleep. The Zen koan asks, "What is your original face before your mother and father were born?" In deep sleep, you wear this original face, though there is no you to wear it and no face to be worn. There is simply the original reality before all faces, before all births, before all becoming. This original reality is not in the past. It's the eternal present that underlies all temporal experience. Every night you return to it, and every morning you emerge from it, though in truth you never leave it. It's simply obscured by the dream of separation that we call waking. As consciousness rests in its own source, as awareness dissolves into its own ground, there is no enlightenment to attain because there is no one to attain it. There is no ignorance to overcome because there is no one to be ignorant. There is no suffering to end because there is no sufferer. This is the ultimate teaching of the Buddha, though it cannot be grasped by the thinking mind. It can only be realized in the depth of meditation or touched unconsciously in the depth of sleep. The breath continues its work even here in the deepest sleep, though it's no longer your breath but the breath of life itself, breathing through the form you temporarily inhabit. The heart continues its beating, though it's no longer your heart but the universal heart that beats in all beings. The awareness continues its awareing, though it's no longer your awareness but the one awareness that looks through all eyes, hears through all ears, experiences through all nervous systems. In this recognition, if recognition is the right word for something that happens below the threshold of conscious knowing, there is profound healing. Not the healing of symptoms, but the healing of the fundamental delusion of separateness. Every night, this healing is offered. Every night, the medicine of deep sleep dissolves the inflammation of ego, reduces the fever of desire, cleanses the infection of ignorance. We wake each morning renewed not just because we have rested, but because we have died and been reborn, because we have touched the source and returned refreshed. The tradition speaks of liberation, of moksha, of nirvana, as if it were somewhere else, something to be attained through great effort and practice. But what if liberation is as close as sleep? What if we touch it every night but don't recognize it because we're unconscious? What if the only difference between deep sleep and samadhi is that in samadhi, we're awake to what's happening? This doesn't diminish the value of conscious realization, but it does suggest that liberation is closer than we think, more available than we imagine. Rest now in this availability, in this ever-present liberation that doesn't depend on your recognition of it. Rest in the freedom that doesn't require your consciousness. Rest in the peace that doesn't need your participation. Rest in the truth that doesn't demand your understanding. Rest in the love that doesn't await your awakening. Rest in what you are, even when you don't know what you are, especially when you don't know what you are. The journey through the night is long, and we are only partway through it. Hours remain before dawn, hours of this precious darkness, this healing void, this creative emptiness. In these hours, dreams will come and go. Cycles of REM and non-REM sleep will alternate. The brain will process and consolidate and clean. But beneath all this activity, in the deepest layer of your being, there will remain this perfect stillness, this absolute peace, this ground of being that is never disturbed by the movements on its surface. As the night deepens around you, as the world sleeps, as consciousness everywhere returns to its source, feel yourself held in the great embrace of existence itself, not held by something separate from you, but held by what you are in your deepest nature. You are the embrace as much as you are the embraced. You are the peace as much as you are the one at peace. You are the sleep as much as you are the sleeper. In the ancient Celtic tradition, they spoke of the thin places, where the veil between worlds is gossamer thin, where one can almost see through to the other side. Deep sleep is the ultimate thin place, where the veil doesn't just thin but disappears entirely, where the other side is revealed to be not other at all, but the same side seen from a different perspective, where heaven and earth are recognized as concepts in consciousness, rather than actual places, where you discover that you have always been on both sides of the veil simultaneously. The Aboriginal Australians speak of the dream time, the eternal present from which all manifestation emerges and to which it returns. Every night in sleep, you enter the dream time, though for most of us, it remains unconscious. You swim in the primordial waters of consciousness. You walk the songlines of existence. You participate in the eternal dreaming that dreams all worlds into being. This is not metaphor but direct experience, though it happens below the threshold of personal awareness. Feel yourself now as part of this greater dreaming, not a separate dreamer, but a character in the dream of consciousness itself. Your individual sleep is a note in the symphony of universal sleep. Your rest contributes to the cosmic rest. Your peace is part of the peace that passeth understanding. You are not small and isolated, but vast and interconnected, not temporary and fragile, but eternal and indestructible in your deepest nature. The yogis speak of Sushumna, the central channel through which Kundalini rises. In deep sleep, consciousness descends through this same channel, returning to its source at the base of the spine, to the Muladhara chakra, where the serpent power sleeps coiled. This descent is as important as any ascent, this downward journey as sacred as any upward striving, for it is in descending that we touch the ground of being, and it is from this ground that all genuine rising occurs. As you rest in this grounded depth, you are being rewired, reorganized, renewed at every level. Neural pathways that no longer serve are being pruned. New connections are being formed. The brain is washing itself clean of metabolic waste. The body is repairing damaged tissues. The psyche is processing undigested experiences. All of this happens without your knowledge, without your participation, in the great intelligence of sleep that knows exactly what you need. The Bhagavad Gita says, "What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the disciplined, and what is the time of awakening for all beings is night for the sage." This mysterious verse points to the reversal that happens in deep realization, where what seems like unconsciousness is recognized as supreme consciousness, where what seems like absence is recognized as ultimate presence, where what seems like nothing is recognized as everything. You don't have to be a sage to touch this truth. You touch it every night, though without the reflective awareness that would make it a teaching. But perhaps that's as it should be. Perhaps some truths are too profound for conscious comprehension. Perhaps they can only be absorbed unconsciously, cellularly, somatically, in the depths where the mind cannot reach. Rest now in these unreachable depths. Rest in the mystery that cannot be solved. Rest in the question that needs no answer. Rest in the journey that has no destination. Rest in the sleep that is not the opposite of awakening, but its deepest expression. Rest in the darkness that is not the absence of light, but light itself in its unmanifest form. Rest in the silence that is not the absence of sound, but the source from which all sound emerges. And as you rest, as you dissolve ever more completely into the source, know that this dissolution is not unique to you. All across the earth, beings are entering this same mystery. The executive in Tokyo, the farmer in Iowa, the child in Lagos, the grandmother in Mumbai, all dissolving into the same source, all returning to the same ground, all participating in the same nightly miracle of consciousness returning to itself. This is the ultimate democracy, the ultimate equality. In deep sleep, there are no rich or poor, no educated or uneducated, no enlightened or ignorant. There is only consciousness at rest, awareness without attributes, being without qualifications. Every night, we all return to the same source. Every night, we all touch the same truth. Every night, we all rest in the same peace. The implications of this are staggering if we really consider them. It means that what we share is deeper than what divides us. It means that our true nature is the same, regardless of our surface differences. It means that peace is not something we need to create, but something we need to recognize. Something we all touch every night, but forget every morning. As the night continues its journey toward dawn, as your body continues its restoration, as your consciousness continues its rest in the source, there is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to understand, nothing you need to achieve. The great work is happening by itself. The cosmic intelligence that runs through all things is taking care of everything. You can trust this intelligence completely, for it is not separate from you, but is your deepest nature. In the morning, you will wake. The dream of separation will begin again. You will remember your name, your story, your scheduled appointments. You will forget this vast peace, this infinite space, this boundless freedom, but it will not forget you. It will remain, waiting patiently beneath the surface of your daily life, ready to welcome you home again tomorrow night, and every night, for as long as this body lasts. For now, though, there is no tomorrow, no morning, no waking. There is only this depth, this peace, this rest, only this dissolution that is not death but life itself in its most essential form, only this darkness that is not empty but full of the potential for all light, only this silence that contains all possible sounds, only this stillness that is the source of all movement. The journey into deep sleep is complete, yet it continues. Every moment of deep sleep is both an arrival and a departure, both an ending and a beginning, both a death and a birth. You are held in this paradox, this mystery, this truth that cannot be spoken. You are cradled in the arms of the mother, the source, the void that is not empty but full. You are dissolved in the ocean of the Father, the silence, the peace that surpasses understanding. Here, in the deepest depth of sleep, you are touching the same reality that the mystics touch in their highest realizations. The only difference is consciousness. They are awake to what you experience unconsciously, but the reality is the same. The boundless, timeless, spaceless truth of what island. The difference between the saint and the ordinary person is not that one touches God and the other doesn't. It's that one knows they're touching God and the other sleeps through it. But perhaps there's wisdom in sleeping through it. Perhaps some truths are too vast for the conscious mind to hold. Perhaps they can only be absorbed in the darkness, in the unconscious, in the depths where the ego cannot go. Perhaps enlightenment is not about being conscious of everything, but about trusting the process, even when we're unconscious, especially when we're unconscious. As you rest in this unconscious wisdom, as you float in this sea of unknowing, you are being prepared for tomorrow's awakening. Not just the literal awakening from sleep, but the potential awakening to your true nature. Every night of deep sleep plants seeds of realization that may not sprout for years or lifetimes. Every night of rest weakens the grip of ego, loosens the bonds of ignorance, softens the walls of separation. The great Indian sage Ramana Maharshi said that the difference between deep sleep and self-realization is that in deep sleep there is no awareness, while in self-realization there is awareness without objects. But he also said that deep sleep is closer to our true nature than waking consciousness, because in deep sleep the ego is absent. Every night you taste enlightenment, though without the consciousness to recognize it. This tasting is not wasted. It leaves its mark on your being, its imprint on your soul. Night after night, year after year, you marinate in the truth, you soak in the source, you bathe in the light that needs no object, and slowly, imperceptibly, this begins to change you. You become softer, more open, more trusting. You begin to sense that peace is possible, that happiness doesn't depend on circumstances, that you are held by something greater than your own efforts. The journey through the night is teaching you, even when you're not conscious of being taught. Sleep is the guru that never speaks, but shows you everything. It shows you how to let go, how to trust, how to dissolve, how to be renewed. It shows you that death is not the end, but a doorway. It shows you that consciousness is not dependent on the brain, that awareness is not created, but eternal, that peace is not an achievement, but your natural state. Rest now in these teachings that are beyond words, beyond concepts, beyond the reach of the thinking mind. Rest in the wisdom of sleep, the intelligence of darkness, the knowledge that comes not through learning, but through unlearning. Rest in the truth that needs no defense, the peace that needs no justification, the love that needs no object. And as you rest, as the night continues its healing work, as consciousness continues its journey through the mysterious terrain of sleep, Remember though, remember is not the right word in this space. Beyond memory, remember that you are exactly where you need to be. There is no better place to be than here, no better time than now, no better state than this. Everything is unfolding perfectly, including your unconsciousness, including your forgetting, including your complete dissolution into the source. The dawn is still hours away. The journey through the night has much territory still to cover. Dreams will come, rapid eye movements will occur, the brain will cycle through its various states. But beneath all this activity, you will remain at rest in the deepest sense. Not you the person, but you the awareness, you the space in which everything occurs, you the peace that is never disturbed, you the truth that is never threatened. Sleep on, dear traveler, sleep deeply and well. Let the night have its way with you. Let the darkness work its alchemy. Let consciousness rest in its own source. Let awareness dissolve into its own ground. Let everything that needs to happen happen without your interference, without your management, without your need to know or understand. This is the ultimate spiritual practice, to do nothing and let everything be done, to achieve nothing and let everything be achieved, to know nothing and let everything be known, to be nothing and let everything be. This is the practice of sleep, the yoga of unconsciousness, the meditation that happens by itself when we get out of the way. In a few hours, light will begin to creep across the horizon. The birds will begin their morning songs. Consciousness will begin to reassemble itself from the void. You will begin the journey back from the depths to the surface, from the source to manifestation, from unity to apparent separation. But that is still far away. For now, there is only this darkness, this depth, this rest. And in this rest, the whole universe rests. In this peace, all beings find peace. In this dissolution, the possibility of all renewal is contained. You are not sleeping just for yourself. You are sleeping for the trees that never rest, for the mountains that never lie down, for the stars that never close their eyes. You are the universe's way of resting, its way of returning to source, its way of remembering what it is beneath all the activity and appearance. The Vedic tradition speaks of the cosmic sleep of Vishnu, floating on the endless ocean, dreaming all worlds into existence. In your sleep, you participate in this cosmic dreaming. You are both Vishnu and the dream, both the dreamer and the dreamed, both the ocean and the wave. This is not philosophy but direct experience, though it happens in a realm where experience and experiencer merge into one. Feel yourself now, though feeling and self have long since dissolved. Feel the vastness of what you are when you're not being anybody in particular. Feel the freedom of having no responsibilities, no obligations, no need to maintain any identity or play any role. Feel the relief of being relieved from the burden of being someone. This relief is available every night, this vacation from selfhood, this break from the exhausting project of being a separate individual. In the morning, you will likely forget all of this. You will wake with no memory of where you've been, no conscious recollection of the depths you've touched, but your cells will remember, your soul will remember, and throughout your day, in moments of stillness, in gaps between thoughts, you might catch a glimpse, a whisper, an echo of this vast peace. You might remember, if only for an instant, that you are not who you think you are, that peace is possible, that you are held by something infinitely loving. These glimpses are gifts from the night, messages from the deep, reminders from your true nature. They come not to torment you with what you can't sustain, but to remind you of what's always available, always here, always waiting just beneath the surface of your busy life. The peace of deep sleep doesn't go anywhere when you wake. It simply gets covered over by the activities of the day, but it remains, patient and available, ready to welcome you home. As the night continues its journey, as your body continues its restoration, as consciousness continues its rest in the source, there is a perfect rightness to everything. The darkness is exactly as dark as it needs to be. The silence is exactly as silent as it needs to be. The dissolution is exactly as complete as it needs to be. Nothing is missing. Nothing is wrong. Everything is unfolding, according to an intelligence that far surpasses our conscious understanding. This intelligence is not separate from you. It is not a force acting upon you from outside. It is your own deepest nature, your own highest wisdom, your own truest self. The intelligence that digests your food, that heals your wounds, that dreams your dreams, that carries you through sleep. This is what you are when you stop trying to be something smaller, something separate, something special. The mystical traditions all speak of union with the divine, but in deep sleep, this union is so complete that there is no one to experience it as union. There is simply unity itself, undivided and indivisible. This is why sleep is often called the little death, not because it's morbid, but because it reveals the truth that death reveals, that separation is an illusion, that consciousness is eternal, that what we are cannot be threatened by the dissolution of what we think we are. Rest now in this deathless truth. Rest in this eternal presence. Rest in this unshakable peace. Rest in the knowledge deeper than conscious knowledge that you are safe, that you have always been safe, that you will always be safe, because what you truly are cannot be harmed, cannot be lost, cannot die. The body may age, thoughts may come and go, experiences may arise and pass, but the awareness that you are remains unchanged, untouched, eternal. As consciousness rests more and more deeply in its source, even these words, even these pointers, become unnecessary. Truth doesn't need to be stated when it's being lived. Peace doesn't need to be described when it's being experienced. Love doesn't need to be named when it's all there island. In the depths of deep sleep, all teachings converge into silence. All paths lead to the same placeless place. All rivers flow into the same ocean. And you are that ocean, though there is no you separate from it to be it. You are that silence, though there is no you to possess it. You are that peace, though there is no you to experience it. This is the ultimate paradox, the final koan, the last teaching that dissolves all teachings. You are what you seek, but there is no you to be it. And in the recognition of this, a recognition that happens below thought, below consciousness, as we usually know it, there is freedom. The hours of the night continue to pass, though in deep sleep there is no sense of time passing. Past, present, and future exist only in the waking state. Here, in the depths, there is only the eternal now, though even now implies a temporal reference point that doesn't exist in deep sleep. There is simply this, whatever this is, beyond time, beyond space, beyond all categories of thought. Somewhere, your body continues its miraculous work of restoration. Cells are being repaired, memories are being consolidated, hormones are being balanced, but you are not there to witness it. You have dissolved into the source from which the body itself arises. You have returned to the place before birth, the space before manifestation, the silence before the first word. And in this returning, you are renewed in ways that transcend physical restoration. The ancient teachers spoke of sleep as a return to the causal realm, the seed realm where all possibilities exist in potential. Every night, you return to this realm, though unconsciously. You swim in the ocean of infinite possibility. You rest in the womb of creation. You dissolve into the source from which all forms emerge. And when you wake, you bring something back from this realm, though you may not consciously know what it island. Perhaps it's a solution to a problem that comes suddenly upon waking. Perhaps it's a fresh perspective that wasn't there the night before. Perhaps it's simply the energy to face another day. But always, you bring something back from the depths, some gift from the darkness, some treasure from the void. This is why sleep deprivation is so devastating. It's not just physical rest we miss, but this nightly return to the source, this daily renewal of our connection to the infinite. As you continue to rest in these depths, you are being dreamed as much as you are dreaming. The universe is dreaming you into existence, moment by moment, breath by breath. Your entire life is a kind of dream, a temporary formation in consciousness, a brief play of light and shadow on the screen of awareness. Sleep reminds you of this truth every night, though you may not consciously remember the reminder. In the Advaita Vedanta tradition, they speak of the three states waking, dreaming, and deep sleep as three different dreams. Waking is the dream of being somebody. Dreaming is the dream of being somebody else. Deep sleep is the dream of being nobody. But who is the dreamer? This is the ultimate question, and it can only be answered in the depth of meditation or touched unconsciously in the depth of sleep. The dreamer is what you are, not you the person, but you the awareness in which the person appears. Not you the individual, but you the consciousness in which individuality arises. Not you the separate self, but you the self with a capital S, the one self that appears as all the many selves, the one awareness that looks through all eyes, the one consciousness that dreams all dreams. Rest now in this recognition, though it's beyond the power of the conscious mind to recognize. Rest in this truth, though it's beyond the capacity of thought to grasp. Rest in this reality, though it's beyond the ability of words to describe. Rest in what you are, though it's beyond all definition. Rest in the mystery, though it's beyond all understanding. Rest, simply rest, in the vast, unknowable, unthinkable truth of being. And as you rest, as consciousness continues its journey through the night, remember that this is not a special experience reserved for mystics and sages. This is the most ordinary thing in the world, happening every night to every being. The only thing special about it is how unspecial it is, how available, how democratic, how universally distributed. Everyone touches enlightenment every night. Everyone returns to the source. Everyone rests in the truth. The only difference is that most of us are unconscious when it happens. But consciousness is not required for the truth to be true. Consciousness is not required for healing to happen. Consciousness is not required for grace to operate. Some of the deepest transformations happen below the threshold of awareness, in the depths where the conscious mind cannot go. Trust these depths. Trust the darkness. Trust the unconscious wisdom that knows how to heal you, how to restore you, how to return you to wholeness. The night is long, and there is still much territory to traverse. Soon, the first dreams will begin to stir in the depths. REM sleep will activate, and the theater of the mind will light up with its strange performances. But for now, there is still this profound stillness, this absolute rest, this complete dissolution into the source. Savor this, though there is no one to savor and nothing to be savored. Appreciate this, though there is no one to appreciate and nothing to be appreciated. Rest in this, though there is no one to rest and nowhere to rest but rest itself. This is the paradox of deep sleep. The experiencer has dissolved, but experiencing continues. The knower has disappeared, but knowing remains. The self has vanished, but being persists. And if you found tonight's journey into rest helpful, remember that you're always welcome here in this space of peace and contemplation. consider subscribing to join our gentle community of souls seeking deeper rest and inner wisdom. Your presence here adds to our collective peace. Until we meet again in tomorrow's twilight, rest well, dream gently, and remember, you are already whole, already peaceful, already home.